Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sprint Challenge Authentication Solution Lecture. Let's hop right in. All right, so going through the README, we are going to essentially look through all of our code, see what's missing, and complete the pieces that are missing. So we have our server here. Server's pretty much doing what we expect it to do. It's using some middleware. We have a router. Let's see, are we starting anywhere? Let's go to our routes. Doesn't look like we are starting our server anywhere. Let's be the first thing we do. Let's go look in our package.json to see if there is a start node-mon. Let's just see what happens. Let's yarn to install all of our dependencies, and it looks like we've got bcrypt, body parser, cores, express, JSON web token, mongoose, and a package you're probably not familiar with called node fetch. It just acts like Axios. We can use Axios on the server. Fetch is the new standard, and so this uses that new standard fetch. But it works just like Axios, and we don't really have to touch it in this. So just so you know what that is just our HTTP Axios stuff. So let's go yarn start and see what happens. Oh, we are listening, so it's funny. Let's check it out where we start listening at. Let's go to our routes. Routes aren't listening here. We got some middleware in here. Routes. There we go. Okay, so we had an app file that calls our server file. Oh, that's interesting. So it brings so our app brings our server in from the server. We are exporting the server. Once again, another way of laying out your server, right? There's just so many possibilities of doing this. And this is bringing in Mongoose, so it's acting like a central repository essentially for our database and our server, and bringing both of those in and starting both of them up. So got that under control. Let's go look at our routes. Looking at our, let's see, nope, we'll go back to this in a moment. Controllers, models. We'll open this up. So let's see, going to our README. Let's pull the README over here. I could have just actually done it from here. There's a good disclaimer here. Authentication is a subject people spend a large amount of time throughout their careers obtaining knowledge over. If you're interested in this, it's an awesome field to be in. It's just going to consume your entire career. So let's see. There's some questions. Hopefully you answered those in the answers file. Let's just go right into the project. Dad jokes. All right. We're trying to receive some mad dad jokes that are being requested from an external API, but we're locked out. We do need all these dad jokes in our lives. We're going to need to implement a user authentication system that uses bcrypt and JSON web tokens. Cool, so we're not using sessions for this. We're going to be using JOTs. We're going to yarn install. We're going to run the node-mon. We'll test this project using Postman. And then once you finish the project, task setting up cores properly for use with the client. So first things first, implement your user schema in models, user models. And we're just going to do a username and a password. That's it. All right. So let's come into our user schema. Oh man, they give it to us already. Let's just go boop, one of those guys. And we'll say required true, unique true, lowercase. Lowercase is going to automatically make our username lowercase, so we don't have to worry about using a regex on a username that is uppercase maybe, or different casing. So it's just going to make them all lowercase. And that's our user schema, right? And it looks like we have it in our export already, our model. So that's great. Next thing, wish it would just stay on the same, is that we are going to use bcrypt to set up a pre-hook for our save function for the user schema. Let's go do that. We're going to fill in the middleware with the proper crypt password, encrypting bcrypt.hash. There's an error, we'll need to handle it by calling next error. Once the password is encrypted, call next. Great, so we have our function. We are using our user schema.pre, and we're going to pre-save. Before we save it, we're going to do some stuff to the data. We are using a function, right? Remember, because we want to be able to have the proper this binding. And we are passing next as our one argument into that function. So coming on in here, we're going to bcrypt.hash. And then we're going to pass the password in, right? So it's this dot password. Next is we're going to bring some assault in or rounds. And we have chosen 11 in the past. And I'm going to use a .then and a .catch on this. If you used a callback, totally fine. Error. And then it says if there's an error, we'll need to handle it by calling next error. Okay, so we'll go next error. Otherwise, we are going to get a hashed password back. And we can say this dot password equals hash. And then we'll go next. And this should work. I'm maybe a little iffy on the binding of this with then. So this the arrow might be referring to bcrypt and not to this binding outside. We'll check it out. All right. Define type at username.required. True. Ah, yeah. Type. We need a type. All right, there we go. All right, that should solve our errors for us. And now let's open up Postman. And let's open up Compass. Let's go check out where it's going to be auth users. It's going to be the name of our database. And so it should be users. So let's go. We have an auth users in here already. I want to nuke that. Let me nuke all these. 1 second. Just want to make it. All right, so we just have our 3 normal, what should be our Mongo databases. All right, we are going to go in next. It's going to be on port 5000. And let's see what our routes say. API/users and our user controller. Oh, we don't have a create user yet. Okay, let's come in here and fill our create user out next. So we have a username and password for create user. Yeah, that's fine. We are bringing in user We're bringing in bcrypt, but we probably don't need it. And if we don't, we'll delete it before we ship this code. So let's go user. Let's use the .create. User.create is great. And we'll go username, password. So remember what user.create does is it says new user, and then it says user.save. So it does both of these in one, right? And then our pre-save hook should kick in here, saving this user to the database with an encrypted password. So let's go to then, and we should get our user back. And then we're going to res.status 201.json, go user on that. Do a catch. Send status 500. All right, now let's do a create user. Well, where's our create user? Okay, so it's just going to be on API/users, and it's going to be a post. All right, so it might have taken a little bit of reading and getting used to this to see what was going on here, but this is just another way of doing it, right? Remind me later, forever. I believe this is just a 5,000. We're going to do a post. Let's do a body. We'll do Frodo again. Let's just see what happens. Uh-oh, yep, there we go. Okay, cool. We've created a user. We've hashed our password, so that .then does work. So we have this .password. So this, get rid of that guy. So using bcrypt, you can use a callback or you can use a promise. And that's kind of new to bcrypt. You used to not be able to use promises. You have to use the callback. All right. So then our password hashing works. Don't do that. And so we're getting a new user. Let's check our database. We have an auth users, and there we go, Frodo. And it's Frodo. Look at Frodo's lowercase, even though we put it in as uppercase. That's pretty cool. And the password is hashed, so we don't know about it, right? No saving plain text passwords. All right. So we are now able to create a new user. And we will want to now set up our check password method that can be used for comparing user passwords later on. And let's just do it kind of the simple way we did before. All right, well, it gives us a callback. So let's just use our callback. So routes, posts, login. Let's go look at our login controller. Our user controller is done. Ooh, there's okay. So this is gonna be there's some code written out for us on this. Let's just look through it real quick on our login. We're gonna send a username and password for our login, right? It's gonna find one by that username, and then it's going to have a callback here, kind of older school style, but this is getting you used to seeing all these things, right? You're going to join a team or a development team, and you're going to see that they use callbacks for everything because their code was written, maybe a year ago, and they just used callbacks. So that's the method that they prefer over promises. And so we want you to be familiar with this style, right? So we have error user, which is the standard node callback signature. There, your error is always first, and then you have a user or your data is second. So if there's an error, then we're going to return an error, invalid username and password. So it didn't find anything or there was an error. If user is null, we're going to say no user with username in our database. I would prefer invalid username and password just so that they, if someone's trying to crack someone's password or do some sort of brute force, they won't know that which one they got wrong, right? If they got the username or password. But that's fine. We're just using this as a little development tool right here, right? So then once we have determined that there is no error and there is a user, we're going to use the check password method on our user model. And we'll build this right now, but let's just go look through and see what it does. First, it's passed that plain text password, right, that it's gotten from the body. So it passes that plain text password to it. So we should see that this is plain text password, right? Next, it passes a callback. Okay, so that should be our callback right here. And our callback is going to take a non-match or a hash match. Doop-a-doop. Okay, so I believe this is going to be our error. Let's see. Okay, no, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for the error, and we're going to pass a true or, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're not passing this directly into bcrypt. That's right. All right, so let's come in here and let's start building it out real quick. Let's do a bcrypt.compare. And the first thing we're going to add to our bcrypt.compare is going to be our plain text password. Next, we're going to add this .password. And then we will get our callback. So let's just write a callback in here right now. We're going to go error, and then we're going to say is match. All right. So we're going to have an error, and we're going to have an is match. So we can pass our non-match, so that can be our error. If we let's say if error, or if is match is incorrect, we are going to pass true to non-match. Okay, so let's say if error or is match. All right, so that's going to say if is match is false, or if there is an error, let's say CB true. Okay, so that's only going to pass true to that first non-match, right? Otherwise, and then let's return from that. Otherwise, we are going to pass CB, and we'll say null. For we don't want anything there, and right, look, our login is checking for null. So if it is not null, so if there is a match and there is no error, we'll put null as our first argument, and we'll put true as our second argument. That's it. All right, and then this is going to take care of everything else for us. Okay, and so it's going to create a token for us. We can see here it's going to sign it. We have a little payload with a username, and like I said before when we were talking about it, our username can be anything. Our payload can be anything. The sub and name and IAT and all that is optional. All right, that's just kind of a guide to what we should put in there. But we can put anything we want in our payload. Remember, no sensitive data, but username is a great thing to put in your payload, right? Because we can look it up by the username. ID would probably be really good too. But as long as our usernames are unique, then essentially our usernames are IDs, right? So because there's only one per user. So then it's going to create a token, and it's going to send that token back. So let's go try it out. And I believe this is on a put, or it's on a post. Okay. Post, and let's do login. And we'll just send it. No user with that username in a database. All right, let's check this out. Oh, I see why. It's not automatically correcting that to lowercase. Uh-oh, now we're getting an error. Let's check it out. CB is not defined. I must be called something else. Callback. Okay. So I'm used to the CB signature. You can call it callback. You can call it anything you want, right? It's called callback here. Let's do that again. And now we have successfully logged in. We have successfully checked our passwords, right? There's no error. It is a match. It's calling the callback. Inside of our callback here, if no match is not null, or if it is not null, it's going to say passwords don't match. And let's go try to get a passwords don't match. There we go. Passwords don't match, right? So if it's not null, and remember, if they didn't match, if error or is match, we're going to just call true for that first argument. So it's not going to be null, and we're going to get that passwords don't match. Otherwise, create a payload, create a token, and send that token. And that is what we've received here. And this is our JOT token. We can tell it's our JOT token because there are 3 strings separated by periods. Right? There's our first, that's our header. There's our body, and there's our signature, right? And there is a valid JOT token. Awesome. So now we have implemented a sign up and a login process. All right, step 2, implement your create user functionality. We already did that. Most of the heavy lifting will be taken care of in our pre-saved middleware. Sure, and you know what? In that case, I want to get rid of that because we're not using it in here, right? Sorry, just a little housekeeping. Sure to follow instructions on creating a user, test post. We did that. Make sure you can create a user at the database with the encrypted password. User's got to log in. Primarily because it's built up for you already. Awesome. So we've already gone through step 3 as well. So a lot of that stuff was built out. We just had to figure out how to use it, right? And use that callback. If your check password function is working properly, you should get back a token from the server. You'll need to handle this token appropriately for your next route. Grab your token, sent back for you in JOT format from login. Okay, send a GET request with the appropriate header. Let's just try that now. GET request to API/jokes. I'm going to do that. I'm going to also save this. I'm just going to copy it. And we are going to say get, and let's see what happens. Ooh, JSON web token error, invalid signature, right? So it's saying that without our token, so how do we do our token? We're going to throw it in our headers. Oh, there's already a token in there, so it's saying that's an invalid token. Ooh. Oh, what is happening? There's a valid token. Oh, and we got some dad jokes now. All right. Oh, man. How many programmers does it take to change a light bulb? None. That's a hardware problem. That's pretty good. I like that. Oh, that's a really deep one. Wow. All right. If you all right. Cool. So looks like we have our full authentication system implemented. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here, and you may have spent a lot of time going through, right? There's our fetch right there from Node Fetch. It's good if you implemented this stuff quick to go through and study how this server was set up and how it was implemented. Let's go back through and give a little rundown, right? We didn't do anything in the login, but let's keep that open. All of our stuff came in our user model, which we've created a schema, which you should be very used to creating schemas by now. We created our pre-save hashing, so we're password hashing. We're not saving plain text passwords. And then we can check passwords. So we are going to make sure that we compare the two passwords. If there is an error or if the passwords do not match, we're going to call that callback. And that callback was written for us, but it's something you will probably need to write on your own eventually, right? And it's just a little bit different signature, right? We have that no match and hash match. Okay, probably in the future, I would say that would be error. And then we could say, error or passwords don't match. But it's not, error doesn't always mean the passwords didn't match. If the passwords didn't match, you're not going to get an error. You're going to get the is match, or that Boolean that bcrypt compare passes to us. It'll be false, right? So that's why I said if there was an error or if is match is false, then call this. Otherwise, call that, right? So going through this and deciphering this code is an important process in learning how to write your own code, because like I said, you're going to jump on a team or a development team somewhere, and you're going to have to read other developers' code, and you're going to have to figure out what it's doing, and then you're going to have to use that code, right? Or you're going to have to mimic the style because that's your company style, your team style, etc. So learning how to read and use existing code is a really important step in becoming a developer. So you may have been like, what is even happening here? And then just reading through it, breaking it down, reading the comments in the code, and then figuring out what needs to happen is a really important development step. And you may have been like caught off guard by that. And that's why we give you 3 hours to do this. I'm not going to go into the stretch goal. We all should know by now how to implement a React application with just a quick sign up, sign in, and jokes page. You're just going to sign up using a form, sign in using a form, and then render your jokes by sending your auth token back and rendering your jokes to the screen in a map. So you should have that on lock. The hard part about that would be using local storage. That's why it was a stretch problem, although I could see in the future it being not a stretch problem, just because we did talk about using local storage on our client. But you also need to set up cores inside of server.js properly. That's it for this lesson. Thanks for working hard, and I hope you enjoyed authentication, and I hope you continue to enjoy testing. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you later.